All right, so here's how I graduated with the highest honors while being an Ivy League pre-med double major. Now I am an Ivy League double degree alumna, so I feel qualified to finally make this video. Sorry for the delay. I had to make sure I knew what I was talking about. I had to make sure the degrees cleared first. So first things first, my degree was neuroscience, and as a pre-med, I took basically every STEM class, like chemistry, physics, all of that. So there is a difference in how I studied for my more memorization classes versus how I studied for my more application-based classes. Let's start with the memorization first. So for my classes like biology and neuroscience, my favorite way of studying was to do mind maps. Now let me show you what that looked like. Basically, I would have the topic for the exam, and I would write out basically a series of question and answers. So this was a weird hybrid that I made of mind mapping, Cornell notes, and also a flashcard. Because what I would do was I would write down all the topics, write down all the concepts, all the things I needed to remember. I would put the question in dark blue, or the prompt in dark blue, and then the actual response in light blue. And then I would make a blank version of the map that would look like this, where it would only have the dark blue prompt, and I would basically be in charge of remembering all of what I had written in light blue. And I would basically just obsessively write out all of the answers. So that was very effective for me because I like to do flashcards. I like to actually physically write things because studies show that that helps you with your memory. And I also just liked generally being able to have everything on one page so that I could see how everything connected. So that's what I did in terms of my memorization-based classes. Now for stuff that was orgo, which is kind of a mix of memorization and also application, I would make these big flash sheets of all of the reactions that I needed to know. So this was literally every single reaction that I learned throughout the entirety of my organic chemistry class. Literally every single one. Every single one, and an example of the mechanism and also the arrows for the mechanism so that I could remember them. Now, similarly to the other thing, I would use this giant reaction sheet and just write out the reactions to make sure I remembered them and how they applied. And then in terms of any other things that I needed to remember, I would just make a little note on here. And I would also fill that in as well. So that's what I did for my memorization-based classes. I also used Quizlet, which, I didn't figure out how to use Anki until kind of after undergrad. I used Anki for my MCAT studying, but yeah. So that's what I did for there. For my more application-based classes like physics, math, calculus, a lot of people ask me how I managed to test out of math and stuff. You really just got to do the practice problems. I would just find old practice exams, practice sheets, and I would just drill those problems. Because even though those classes are application-based, once you, there's only so many different ways that you can solve a set problem. So for physics, for example, I would just look at the unit that we were in, and I would basically learn the skeleton approaches to solving all the different problems, and I would just do a bunch of problems until I was sure I had that down. For the application-based classes, I would just apply the concepts until I had them. And that's really how I studied for my STEM-based classes. If you guys have any more specific questions or want to see specific study sheets and things that I made, just let me know. I'm happy to share.